Hey guys, so there's this field behind my house and I don't come out here very often, but these days it's been kind of like calling out to me. And so I thought that today I would record my video from here, from the great outdoors, and kind of let you see what my sort of backyard looks like. I don't own it. It's the city's land, but it's pretty nice. And there's a creek back there that I don't go to ever. And there's me. And here's the other side. It's actually a really pretty spot, and I thought it would be a good idea to do your lesson from here today. Some of you guys know about shading. We've talked about shading and how to make things dark and light, but this week I posted a couple of videos of just my artwork that I do just for fun, which I love to do, portraits is my favorite thing to do. I have one that's with ink, which is scumbling and cross-hatching. Scumbling is like little scribbly things, and cross-hatching is lines that go in different directions to make things light and dark. But my favorite thing to use is just a regular pencil. So today I thought I would give you some lessons on shading with a pencil. Even if I've already done a lesson in the classroom about shading, I thought I would maybe be a little bit more specific and let you watch me up close. So let's give that a shot. Okay, so I'm going to start off with just a regular pencil. I know this looks kind of fancy. This is my favorite kind of pencil. It's a Pentel. You can get this at Walmart. They're like $1 or $2. It's just a clickable mechanical pencil. It's 0.5 lead. But I promise you, you can do this with any pencil, or really, you can even do it with crayons or with colored pencils. It doesn't matter. The idea is the same. First of all, we talked about this in class. When you're writing, you actually usually hold your pencil really up close to the tip of it so that you can make a nice dark mark. So for example, if I'm writing the letter D, let's say that I'm going to write the word day. I'm going to write that pretty hard. And remember, we even talked about sometimes you can really even feel the indentation on the paper because it's so dark. Then if you make a mistake and you try to erase it, which I barely have an eraser, but even like that, even if I did have a little gum eraser like this, which this one has leather on it and stuff. But you know what my point is. My point is it's hard to erase because the lines are so dark. So in art class, I told you guys when we draw, we don't hold our pencil like we write. We hold our pencil from way back here, or even further. Sometimes we hold it from way back here if we're trying to make really light lines. And I've always told you guys we have to start with light lines first. You hear that bird singing to me? I think he's happy. All right, so if I'm going to draw the letter D, again, I'm going to hold my pencil way back here from the center of the pencil, or just really not from the tip, from about the middle. And I'm going to also, instead of holding it up and down, see how my pencil is up and down where you can't even see it? I'm going to loosen it up a little bit, loosen my wrist, push my hand back, and I'm going to kind of brush a line on my paper. You can barely see that line. Can you see it? It starts right here and it ends right here. You can barely see it. I'm going to get a little bit darker with that line by going over it. And then with my eyes, I'm going to kind of look at where my letter would go, where the curve of my letter would go. And then I'm going to slowly and gently and carefully start to make tiny little, almost like brush strokes on my paper. Okay? And if I like those lines, or once I get them to where I like them, I'm going to get a little bit darker. And a little bit darker still. So it's almost like I'm shading, even though I'm making a line. So it's a lot of little lines all connected. And then I have a beautiful letter D that I have drawn. Okay. Now if I want to make this like a blocky letter, then I could make another D in the middle. So I'm going to do the same thing, make a light line right here. Then make a light curve. I can fix it as I go. So these lines are almost like clay. They're so malleable, which means that you can bend them and fold them and you can't even tell because they're also getting darker, but they're also getting thicker. Alright, so now I have a three-dimensional or a blocky letter D. Now if I want to shade, okay, so this lesson is about shading. Remember that you're kind of going to start the same way, but here we're making a line, but when you shade, you're making more like, kind of adding texture to it a little bit. So you see how my hand's already like going like this? What I'm doing in the air is kind of like the scribbling thing that I did with ink. But I'm basically I'm going to do this dark so you can see what it looks like kind of, but I'm just kind of making little circles going different directions. But that's not how I'm going to do it because that's way too dark. When I start, I'm barely going to touch the paper. And they're really small. They're much smaller than that. But I'm making them so light that you can barely see. Sometimes it's almost even like cross-hatching. Now cross-hatching, I'll do it here next to it. Cross-hatching is where you have lines that go in one direction, and then you make them go in a different direction, and then maybe even a third, and you can really go, you know, up and down, sideways. There's a whole bunch of directions you can go to make something super, super dark with just lines. So that's kind of what you're doing with the pencil too, but it's very, very, very light. So I'm going to start off really light, and then if I want to get a little darker, you basically make a whole layer of light. And I'm not speeding up this video, and I'm also not slowing it down. I'm talking to you as I'm doing it so you can see exactly how slow I'm going. It's a very slow and careful process. Now this whole blob is about the same value. Remember that value means dark to light, so this is all about the same value. If I want to make part of this blob a little darker, I'm going to go over it with really the same amount of pressure, but since it's like another layer, it's going to start looking a little darker. And as I go, I can start to kind of press my pencil down a little bit too, just to make it a little darker. And now you can see that I'm also, like, I've stopped kind of brushing, and now I'm actually staying on the paper to make this bottom part a little bit darker and darker and darker. And I'm going back to scumbling versus lines. I started off with kind of lines in this last part, the bottom part, to make it look nice and dark. I'm going back to scumbling. All right? Now, that's teeny tiny. It looks like a little teardrop or a little, I don't know, like a little bud of a flower. Look at that. I have a rose bush in the front and it has these little buds. It's got little leaves on it. Look at that little rose bud. So cute. Okay, but that's not what we're doing. Alright. So I'm going to make maybe the outer edge of the D a little bit darker than the center of it. So I'm going to make all the outer edges darker, and the center I want it to stay light. Remember that with shading you can always get darker, but once you shade you can't really make it lighter. In order to make something light, you have to make everything around it a little bit darker to make it look lighter, but you can't actually make something lighter. Also, there are mosquitoes out here. I want you guys to know I'm getting eaten alive right now. So first step is to darken the things that you want later on to be really dark. You're going to darken them, but lightly first. Remember, we want the whole edge to be dark. So I'm going to start darkening this outer part. And I'm going to darken the outer edge of the inside of the D also, if that makes sense. Now I'm going to start darkening it even more, but I'm not touching the center part yet. I'm not going to darken that yet. I can darken this part. Darken the outside part. It's a very gradual darkening. And remember that on the edges I am going back to the scumbling part, and I'm pressing a little bit harder with my pencil, just a little bit. The idea is to have everything look smooth. Okay, now I'm going to go to the center part, but I am barely touching the paper. Remember when I went around the classroom and I brushed everybody's hand like this with my pencil so you could see how light I was moving the pencil? That is what I'm doing with this paper. Like, the paper can barely feel my pencil on it. I don't think it even knows that I'm here. Alright, so now you can kind of see the different values, but see how I can see the dark and I can see light, and I kind of want to smooth this out a little bit more. So I'm going to make it more of a medium. And the outer part, I'm going to make it even darker by pressing down, remember? I'm pressing down. Now, again, remember that I told you this is just with a regular pencil. If you are fortunate enough that you have some drawing pencils in your possession, then those are even more fun to work with because you can get a really big kind of variation in value. So you can, it's not so much that you can make your lights lighter because they're never going to get lighter than the paper itself. But with a drawing pencil, you can get super, super dark. And if you have a charcoal pencil, even more. All right, I think I'm done with this D right now because you can that's just pretty much as far as I can get with a regular pencil. But you get the idea that it's now a little bit more, it has more depth to it. It's more of a three-dimensional type of letter. I'm going to show you the same thing, but I'm going to go a little bit more quickly because like I said, I am being eaten alive right here. Not such a great idea now. I'm going to go with, so what I'm looking at right now are these pencils that I have, and the HBs are not very dark. 6B is a little too dark. I'm looking for like a 2B. I think I have one. Here we go. The 2B is one of my favorite ones because it's not super, super dark, but it's dark enough that it makes a difference. Mine is not very sharp because I've been using it lately. Okay, I'm going to make another D right here so you can see the difference. I'm going to start off again with light lines, and you can already see my light lines with a 2B are a lot darker than the ones that I had with the regular pencil. So I have to be really careful. Normally I would not start a drawing with a 2B. I would start with a regular pencil. Then when I get the lines that I like, I would go over them with this pencil. And you can see that in one of my videos. But someday you'll be able to see that in a lot of my videos, but for now I only have 2 that are like demos. Alright, so there's the basic shape, and you can see that it's kind of rough, and that's okay because we're going to be shading. So I'm going to shade it again. Scumble, scumble, scumble. I'm going to go a little bit faster on this one. I'm going to speed up the video. Okay, that's it for my light. And now I'm going to go and darken it a little bit. Something else you're going to notice is that I'm kind of shading in the direction of the D. So I'm kind of going with the curve of the D. Once you start drawing like facial features and like arms and hands, or if you're drawing like a sphere, you kind of want the shading to also go with the direction of the surface that you're doing. Okay, I have just adjusted. I don't even know if you caught that, but I scooted up on my pencil a little bit, and I was more at attention. My pencil's a little bit more standing up now, and that is because I really want to get this dark. So the closer you are to the tip of your pencil, and the more upright your pencil is, the darker you'll be able to make those values. So you can see right now how dark these drawing pencils can get, and so that tells you that I had to really make an effort to not make it dark initially. Because if I were going to write, remember how we wrote the word day? If I were going to write that with this pencil, it's super, super dark. So when you're drawing, you want to avoid that when you're first initially drawing. Now I'm working on, so I made this outside part really dark, the outside here and the outside of this little hole thing. And then what I'm going to be working on is smoothing out the values from dark to light. And to smooth out, what that means is I'm putting less pressure on the paper. These are just little exercises that you guys can do. In the classroom, what we had done, this was for my, I did this with 4th grade this year. We made a little fraction thing. We talked about math. And I told you we were going to make 5 compartments, and one of them would be the same size. So you start by making a candy bar, cut it in half, 1/2, 2 halves. And then we cut each one of those into another one, so we had 4ths. And please don't get confused. Math teachers, if you are watching this, please, I'm sorry. But what we did was we added another one of these, technically 4ths. So now we have 5 pieces. I know it's confusing, I'm sorry. Okay, so pretend that the whole thing is a candy bar. And we have cut it into 5 equal pieces. So now they are 5ths, but forget about the 4ths. Okay, anyway, the first one's going to be blank, and the 5th one, remember I think we put it 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that's what we did. So box 0 is going to be blank. Box 4 is going to be super, super dark. And then to practice, we just went with super light lines or light shading, and really on all of the boxes except the first one. This is like a combination of cross-hatching and shading. Okay. Then on the second, third, and fourth boxes, we may be shaded in a different direction. So this is, again, this is kind of a combination between cross-hatching, because you can't really see the individual lines, and just shading in that direction. The third and fourth box now is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to, instead of doing cross-hatching, I'm going to scumble. So I'm going to kind of go in little circles, but I want these two to look the same for now. But then remember that the fourth one, I want it to be super dark. So now I'm pressing down really hard, and my scumbling is very tight. It's very small circles, and I'm pressing down really hard. Right. So this is something else that you can do to practice. And the last thing I'm going to show you is the cube thing, because kids really love to do this. You draw a square. Okay, how do we do this before? I'm trying to show you the easiest way to do this. So you're going to make a line from this box, from this corner, and from this corner, and those three lines are going to be parallel. That means they're going to be going in the same direction. And we're going to make them going in this direction. So 1, starting here, 2 right there, and 3 right here. And we're going to make them go out. So there's 1, 2, 3. You can practice this again. If you don't get it the first time, it's okay. So you have 1 line, 2 lines, 3 lines about the same length, and then you're going to connect these two right here, connect these two right here. Alright, so now you have a cube. We're not going to worry about the shadow of the cube. And you're going to choose 3 of these different shadings. So definitely you can use the fourth one. Maybe let's try the first one and, I don't know, the second one. Okay, so this, probably one of the two, either the front or the side, will be your dark one, because light usually comes from the top. So I'm going to make this one be my dark one. Usually I don't start with the darkest one, but we're going to just shade it in, and then later on, as needed, we'll make it a little bit darker. So I'm going to shade that one. Then I'm going to make the front one my medium tone, so it's going to be like this type of shading or value. Mosquitoes! And again, it looks kind of like cross-hatching. Remember that in cross-hatching, the lines are very distinct, and so this, since we're going so close together, it's not really cross-hatching. It feels like cross-hatching, but it really is not. It's really just shading. And I'm filling in all the little gaps, because it's pencil and you can do that. And then the top one, I want that to be really light. So I'm going to go in a different direction for the top. I'm going to go this way. And I'm barely going to touch that paper. Okay. You can kind of see the 3 shades right now, but really these two are very similar, kind of like when we did the watercolor. It's just like when we did the watercolor. We have light, medium, and dark. So remember, if you had 2 that were light colored and they look kind of the same, I told you make the second one darker. So since these 2 are very similar, we're going to make this one darker. So I'm going to go back and do some scumbling on top of that. I forgot that everybody did watercolor, so you know what I'm talking about. I never got to finish those little watercolor, like ocean or mountain scenes that we were working on. I'm sorry. Alright, so now I have a good difference between the top and the front, but look at what happened. Now I don't have a difference between the front and the back and the side over here. So I'm going to have to remember where this line was. And now the side has to be super dark. Super dark. Okay. That's a beautiful cube. Okay. And then I think I told you that was the last thing I was going to show you, but some of you guys also know about these guys. This is called the Tortillon, Tortillon. I don't really know the pronunciation, but those of you who have used this before, you know that this is for kind of for blurring it a little bit, for kind of pushing the kind of like the pigments of the pencil down into the paper, and it makes everything look kind of smoother. So if I do it on the D, let me see if you can see the difference at all. It kind of just blurs everything together without really changing the value too much. It changes it a little bit, but it makes it look smooth. So if I do it on this, you can see the difference. Now it's kind of smoothing that top part out. I'm starting with the lightest value first. I'm going to go to the medium. And I hope you can see that difference in the camera because I really enjoy that. Look, it looks smooth. And then I'm going to go to the darkest one. This is just, by the way, a piece of paper that's rolled up. But yeah, it's called a tortillon specifically for this. You can also do it with your finger, but the thing about your finger is it's not very pointy. So if I try to do that, it's going to accidentally, like, you know, get on everything. So that's why these are so handy, because they're nice and sharp. And then if you want to add a shadow, you can remember that the light is coming from the back and the top, so this is the darkest part, so your shadow is going to be right there, and you can kind of just, with this same tortillon, you can kind of just go out and make your little shadow for your box. Okay, that's your lesson for today. Hope you had fun, hope you learned it, and keep practicing. Bye.